Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to our Bhagavad-Gita lecture given by His Grace Manonatha Das, who's been for a few weeks now, and we really appreciate your time and all the knowledge and and wisdom that you've been sharing with us. So we're very, very grateful, and we just are very excited to continue hearing from you. So Hare Krishna. With that, I will go ahead and mute myself.
Hare Krishna. Yes. So we are going to start by, as always, offering our offering our obeisances, because our life is a life of devotion, and philosophy and knowledge is just one aspect of devotion. So we have to first of all offer obeisances. This is called Mangalacharana, which means offering, asking for blessings. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtanam Stapita Vyena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayanada Kesvapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavascha Sri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunata Vitantam Sajivam Sattvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Cha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Gadada Sripasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada was established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunatha Dasa and Raghunatha Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani Sri Krishna, along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishaka. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion. for the fallen souls. I offer my obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasa, and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today we are going to discuss chapter 6 of the Bhagavad-Gita, which is made of 47 verses. So it's double the chapter 5 that we studied last time. We have gone through 5 chapters of the Bhagavad-Gita. Obviously, somebody said, I already explained this point last time, it's very fast, there's a lot of information, etc., etc. But if you want to discuss Bhagavad Gita chapter by chapter, then this is what it is. You cannot do it in any other different ways unless you want verse by verse, or if you want a group of verses by group of verses. But I was asked specifically to explain in a general sense the Bhagavad Gita chapter by chapter. We are the 6th chapter, and this chapter is quite tough. So let's go to it. So the 6th chapter is dedicated to yoga. So today we are going to learn what yoga really is. We are accustomed, of course not devotees, but people in general, are accustomed to think the yoga, is something that you pay some fee, some monthly fee. You go to a gym and you do some posture and maybe some regulation of breathing, and you put your legs behind your neck or things like that. There's nothing. This is no yoga. This is gym. You can get the same benefit by doing footing every day in the park. So yoga is something very different. The science of yoga has been explained by sage Patanjali many years ago. We are talking about thousands of years ago, in a book called Yoga Sutra. Yoga Sutra. So Yoga Sutra, it's not an easy book to read, to study without an explanation. And the explanation is very technical and may take a lot of pages to explain one verse or sometimes even one word. So today, in less than 1 hour, we are going to explain what yoga is. So first of all, we have spoken about the renunciation. The last weeks, we have learned that when we act karma, we have studied what karma yoga actually means. If you give it to Krishna, that's renunciation. Renunciation is not taking your money and throw it out the window, but take your money and give it to Krishna. Money or time, you take your time, you give it to Krishna. You take your intelligence, you give it to Krishna. You have your energy, you give it to. Don't throw it away. Why you should waste something that, after all, is not yours? How can you say, I renounce to something, to my money? You can say, I renounce to your money. And I say, but my money is not yours. How can you renounce to something that is not yours? So nothing is ours, because everything belongs to Krishna. When we take birth, we have nothing. We don't even have knowledge how to speak, how to walk, how to do. Everything comes and nothing is ours. Light is not ours. Air is not ours. Food is not ours. It grows. Whether we work, food is there. Water. We don't create water. Water is there. It comes from somewhere else. So if someone says, I want to practice renunciation and go in the top of a mountain and not eat or eat very little, or that's it's called in the Bhagavad-Gita pretender. That's a pretension. You cannot renounce something that is yours. So the Bhagavad-Gita, in the first 5 chapters, we learned 2 or 3 very, very basic lessons. First, the spirituality of the self. We are not this body, we are spirit soul. We have heard this many, many times during these weeks. And the second is that the soul is active, eternally active by nature, so it has to do something. So the Bhagavad Gita teaches you how to act without getting involved in a materialistic way of life. And there is karma yoga. Karma yoga, it would deserve a book, maybe 2, maybe 5 books to explain karma yoga, but basically what you have, you give it to Krishna. So we teach to our devotees how to offer to Krishna the food. We teach our devotees to have a little altar in their houses, something very simple, can be very elaborated, but can be very simple. Little altar, you put the right deities, don't put some weird thing, but you put Goranita, you put your spiritual master, and you offer the food. How offer the food? There are mantras. You don't have time to recite all the mantras, just say Hare Krishna. The point in question is that you have to remember that the food that you're eating is not yours. And of course, we had to act to get whoever of you has jobs, they had to go and work just for money. We have spoken about how society shouldn't be like this. But since it is, then we say to the devotees, do some devotional service. Do something. Go to the temple, clean the floor, or, and do anything you can do it for Krishna. And so this is very basic principles of karma yoga. Do devotional service for Krishna. And now, in the second verse of the 6th chapter, Krishna says something very important. Since we have heard the word yoga, we may wonder how yoga can enter into the life of a devotee. Krishna immediately says something basic, revolutionary. Yoga and renunciation is the same thing. Yoga and renunciation is the same thing. When you offer your food to Krishna, that's yoga. Okay? You renounce not to the food. Again, you cannot renounce to the food because the food is not yours. Should I repeat it? You cannot renounce something that is not yours. So you take Krishna's food, who gave it by water and etc. You offer to Krishna. You say, basically, thank Krishna, you give me this food. That's yours. Once you have offered, then you can take it. It is called prasadam. In the beginning, it's called bhoga. Then becomes prasadam. It's very, very simple, very important spiritual practice. So yoga and karma yoga is the same thing. That's why it's not called karma. It's called karma yoga. Karma means action. Karma yoga means the type of action who yoga relink, put you back in contact with Krishna. Yoga, you and a huge to link, okay? Just like a religion. Religion comes from the Greek religa, how is that? Religa. I don't remember anyway the Greek word, but relegare means to put together. Okay, when your book is ruined and the pages go all over, and you go to a place and they bind it again. So this is yoga. This is called religion. So religion and yoga is the same thing. But, says this verse, one cannot be a yogi. He says, you can, renunciation, you offer to Krishna, but you cannot be a perfect yogi if you don't renounce the desire for sense gratification. And this is something we are going to talk a little later, what sense gratification actually means. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engaged in fruitive activities. What fruitive activities mean? Very often we find this word fruitive as an adjective. Fruitive activities, a fruitive thought, fruitive anything. I know. A fruitive means you do something for a fruit or for a result. You don't do it for Krishna. You do it for having a result for you. And at the moment you do something for you, that's a sense gratification. Because you expect that the result of what you do will give you some kind of satisfaction. So this is sense gratification, and this is not the right consciousness to do to do yoga, to practice yoga. So now we are going to open a little parenthesis in explaining what yoga is according to the Bhagavad-Gita, talking about the mind. We have spoken about the mind for a few times in the last weeks or in my classes here in San Antonio. I remember. And that one cannot do yoga, whether yoga be spiritual yoga or material yoga, unless he controls the mind. The mind. So what is the mind? The mind is that thing, that mechanism, the subtle mechanism in your body. It's not brain. Brain and mind are two different things. Just like a computer and a software inside the computer are two different things. Okay? Without the software, the computer is useless, and vice versa. So the mind is a software, and the brain is the hardware. So you need two. The brain translates in physical impulses what the mind thinks and what the mind orders, what the mind wants, in such a way that the brain tells to the senses what to do. And what the senses do? The senses collect experiences. I touch this, I like it. I touch this, I don't like it. I see that, I like it. I see that, I don't like it. I hear that, I like it, I don't like it. So this is how it works. And this experience, I like it, I don't like it, it goes to the brain and then to the mind. And then to the mind. So the mind acts in such a way that it stores our experiences, our sensorial experiences. And every time we go back to the same situations or a similar situation, the mind tells to the senses, yes, this was good, so do it again. This form, I liked it. So now that form is similar, so go back, look at it, watch it, stare at it, because you like the first time, you're going to like it. So the mind and the senses are linked in this way, that the senses provide experiences for the mind, and the mind tells to the senses, I like this, I don't like this. So you do this, you don't do that. So here in this chapter, the Bhagavad-Gita says that unless one does not control his mind, yoga is not possible. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind, not degrade yourself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul, but is his enemy as well. So when the mind becomes a friend and when the mind becomes an enemy, when the mind is accustomed to material emotions, material experiences, it's an enemy, because it will tell to the senses, go get that material thing. And material thing means you know, you are going to stay in this material world. It's not that we should want. But when the senses are accustomed to watch spiritual form, talk about spiritual philosophy, or taste spiritual food like prasadam, or hear sounds like the Mahamantra or something, then our mind becomes our friend. Why? Because the senses are giving it to the mind spiritual emotions. So here Krishna is very clear on this point. He says the mind can be your friend. Why it can be your enemy? It depends on what you do with your mind. And depends on what you do with your senses. What do you decide to do with your life? Are you going to spend your life watching material things, or hear material sounds, or taste material food, or smell material, and then your mind will not be controlled. This is impossible. You cannot control it. So for one who has conquered the mind by spiritual activities, all the senses, okay, what the yogi do? Traditionally, the yogi, they go on top of a mountain and then they try to control the mind. Okay, I tell the mind, don't look at that, don't hear that, don't smell that, don't say that, don't touch that. This is how they do. You know, they meditate, they try to control the mind in such a way they can control the senses by depriving the senses of their corresponding objects. Okay, so this is how yoga, the yoga we know, the classical yoga works, but it's not going to work. This is almost impossible. It's not going to work. The process that Sri Krishna teaches here is the contrary. You don't try to control the mind, so in that way you can control sense. You control your senses in such a way your mind is automatically controlled. How you control the senses? By engage them in spiritual activities, in spiritual forms, in spiritual sounds, in spiritual smells, in spiritual food, or spiritual sounds. So for one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. Tranquility. This is a word we are going to spend some, few seconds now. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. How is it possible? If it's too cold or too hot, how can I be tranquil? How can I be in the same state of mind when it's too cold or when it's nice? When I arrived in San Antonio, the first days was freezing cold. And then after a couple of weeks, it became heavenly. It was like it was no cold, there was no heat, it was beautiful. I come from a very hot country where heat is 24 hours, 24/7, and 365, night and day is the same. It's just hot. So when I again experience some nice, cool temperature, I was very, very happy. So how is it possible that extreme situations and normal and nice are all the same for a non-conditioned soul. Non-conditioned. Someone who looks for happiness outside, then his happiness is conditioned by the outside. Okay, so the whole of your life, you try to put yourself in a such situation where the outside situations, okay, sorry if I double the word, in a situation where it's not too hot, it's not too cold, not this, not that, everything must be, it can't work. It's impossible. Because this material world is done in such a way that you're never going to have a perfect situation. There's always something wrong. Too hot, cold, your family, your son, your mother, your father, your friend, your job, this and that. There's always something wrong. But what about if we can find happiness inside? It doesn't depend on anything outside. It's just inside. And you say, well, what do you mean? By inside. Inside means meditation. Inside means mantras. Inside means philosophical thoughts. Inside means appreciating devotional service, which doesn't depend on result. You know, you are entitled to the devotional service, not to the result. So although you strive for a good result, because a devotee cook cannot think, oh, it doesn't matter if my preparation is good or bad, because Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, they should not be attached to the result. Bhagavad-Gita doesn't say that. Bhagavad-Gita say that you should not be attached to the result for your enjoyment. You should be attached to the result for Krishna, but not for your enjoyment. So you should be detached from enjoying the result of your devotional activities. So when you find a world inside you of meditation or thoughts or relationship, and that everything does not depend on any external, then you become happy. You become completely happy. And then to such a man, happiness and distress, here doesn't mean happiness, interior happiness, means material happiness or material distress. Heat and cold, honor and dishonor is all the same, because he doesn't care. His happiness doesn't depend on any of this. So when someone is in this state of consciousness and his mind is so controlled, then he becomes happy. And going back to the yoga that we are going to explain today a little more, and without controlling the mind, the yoga is just a pretending. You're cheating yourself, and often you are cheating other people, saying to people, I'm practicing yoga. You're not practicing yoga. You are practicing how to get money from other people. That's what you are doing. Yoga is something totally different. And so here, in the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna continues to describe what is how by controlling the mind you can become a perfect yogi. And a yogi is satisfied with knowledge and realization. It doesn't say the yogi is happy when he gets money from his disciples or from the students of my school, you know, or when he opens hospitals or opens schools or opens this kind of things which are materially good, but there's no meaning, spiritual meaning whatsoever. And then when a yogi lives in this way, then he's advancing spiritual knowledge. Again, if someone is interested in this world, then the path to liberation is very difficult if someone is still attached. I know that somebody is going to ask, well, what do you mean we should not open hospital? Why people should die? Of course, people shouldn't die, but they will, okay? And Srila Prabhupada wasn't really enthusiastic about opening hospitals. We open hospitals, but Srila Prabhupada never was enthusiastic, because he said, doctors are already there. We should do our job. Our work is not that. Our job is not the bodies. Our job is a spirit. We should teach people how to get interested in eternity, not in a temporary situation in this world. You open an hospital, someone may live 5 minutes, he will die. There's no hospital that will cure you from death. He is going to die. So the benefit of this kind of benefactory activities, which are benefactory, we are not saying that since we are going to die that we should go around shooting people. That's not our philosophy. What we are saying is that the goal of human life, the best thing that we can do in life is to practice and teach others how to get free from this material world once and for all. So Krishna then goes on describing some part of Ashtanga Yoga. You find Ashtanga means 8 parts. Ashta means 8. Anga means section or parts. And he says, I should go in a secluded place and lay down cushion grass, etc., etc. And you should practice control of the body and watching the tip of the nose, etc., etc., and how to regulate the sleep. One should not sleep too much, one should sleep too little, and you should not eat, etc., etc. But then Arjuna says something really strong. After Krishna dedicated quite a few verses, around 10 or 15, describing Ashtanga Yoga, Arjuna said, okay, but the system which you have summarized appeared impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Arjuna says, okay, thank you very much, I can do this. I cannot sit down in some forest. Maybe I can do it, between parentheses. Maybe I can do it, Arjuna may I have thought, but that is not what the 99.9 periodic or the people in Kali Yoga is going to be able to do. We need something else. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, very strong. Okay, and Lord Krishna let him say few words, but says, no, it's not impossible. Of course, Arjuna didn't say impossible, impractical, unendurable, but unendurable, at least in English, is almost impossible. Intolerable, unendurable means you cannot tolerate it. And Krishna says, it's difficult. Yes, I'm not saying that it's easy, okay? But it's possible by practice and by detachment. Are you interested in becoming a yogi? Means going back to the spiritual world? Then you should practice the discipline of bhakti and having a strong determination of detachment from this world. And he says, Matir Mama, which means this is my opinion. And when Krishna says it's my opinion, means it's true. So Arjuna says it's Ashtanga Yoga. Arjuna was not referring to the Karma Yoga that Krishna is explaining for 5 chapters and a half of this. 6th chapter was about Karma Yoga, not Ashtanga Yoga. But Arjuna now is referring to the Ashtanga Yoga system taught by Patanjali thousands of years ago. And he said, this is impossible. And Krishna says, no, it is possible, but not that yoga. That yoga for you, Kali Yoga, that's impossible. But Karma Yoga, this is for you. That is possible. Then Arjuna becomes thoughtful again and says, okay, you say that it is possible, okay, but what about if I try to do it, but I don't make it? This is a question, another question. Look how how good Arjuna's questions are to Krishna. Arjuna says, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist? He tries, but he doesn't make it. Who is determined, but not perfectly determined, and due to worldly mindedness. Arjuna uses the translation of the word is a worldly minded. It means that before practicing yoga, he was a normal person doing normal life. So someone whose mind is accustomed to think in terms of materialistic principles or materialistic values. Okay, and Arjuna is very frightened and says, okay, I try. If I don't make it, what happened? Maybe he will fall away from both spiritual and material. He's worried. They say, okay, if I give up the material world, and then I am so unsuccessful in spiritual world, I will lose the material world and the spiritual world. So he's worried. He's making some accounting. If I leave this and I don't get that, I am stuck in the middle without don't get anything in the spiritual world and in the material world. And perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere. This is my doubt of Krishna. So he's worried. He's worried. He says, if I try it, don't make it, I lose everything. So Krishna says, whatever you do, I'm paraphrasing, whatever you do is never lost in this endeavor. If you do 1% of spiritual life, this is never lost. You are going to find it again. It's not that you don't do 100%, you lose anything you have done within this 100%, then you don't get anything. And it's never overcome by evil. There is a difference between money and yogic or devotional activities. If you put some money in the bank and you do the wrong investment, you lose everything. Okay? But if you engage in devotional service, this is never lost, even if you lose by not making it. Why? Because Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad-Gita, don't worry, whatever you do, that's there. It's an eternal bank account that I'm giving you. If you don't make it, you start again from where you are left in the next life. This is what Krishna says. It takes birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in this world. And in taking such birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he starts again. So he's there, and whatever you got, he will give you a better life. In this life also, there is also a devotee who say, some guest of, I don't understand, how you maintain yourselves, that you say Krishna maintain us, but what is this trick? Krishna maintain, cannot Krishna maintain me also? And we say, you become a devotee, you say Krishna will take care of you. Krishna gave food to the elephant who eats, how many kilos or tons of things every day. He maintains. Why Krishna shouldn't maintain his devotee? You don't want to be Krishna, you are on your own. You have to get your money, you have to get your food, you have to get your health all by yourself. Why? Because you are detached from Krishna's lotus feet, from Krishna's mercy. And if you take shelter of Krishna, then you are protected by him. Why he shouldn't protect you? You ask for him. Please protect me. I am your devotee. I will not try to protect myself. just like Draupadi in the Mahabharata that you are correcting now in English. Hopefully soon we'll have in English also. At a certain point, Draupadi was mistreated by the Kauravas, by Duryodhana and Dushasana in specific. And Dushasana was trying to pull her sari together naked, and she was trying to protect herself. But Dushasana was a big, strong Kshatriya, and Draupadi was a woman. Normally, women are physically weaker than the men, so she couldn't do it. She couldn't protect herself. So at the point, he said, I can make it. So she will, just as she left the sari go, and she raised her arms and said, oh, Govinda, please help me. I'll take shelter of you. And what happened? The Govinda gave endless sari, and Dushasana was pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and she never got naked. So this is the secret. The secret is not, I will provide for myself, but I will provide for Krishna, and Krishna will provide for me. A yogi is greater than the ascetic. A bhakti yogi, yoga, and we studied this. When we mean yoga, means connection con Krishna. Connection con Krishna means bhakti. So a bhakti yoga is greater than the ascetic. Why? Because ascetic is someone who tries to do what Draupadi was trying to do in the beginning of her struggle with Dushasana. I will, by my own strength, develop great powers, mystical powers, so that I can go to the upper planets and become happy in that way. Great the empiricists, which are the philosophers who try to get liberation with their own intelligence by speculating, by using intelligence, by thinking to philosophy, so that they become powerful and advanced. And of course, greater than fruity workers. That means I will become rich by my own work. That's fruity worker. Someone who work to have a result for himself. And this we have studied many hours. We have dedicated a long time to fruity work. Therefore, Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. Okay? And of all yogis, the one with great faith, which means determination. Faith is not like a Christian faith, it's something different. Who always abides in me, thinks on me within himself, render transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, which means love and devotion. We have proved the yoga and bhakti is the same thing, and he is the highest of all. That is my opinion, and Krishna's opinion is a good one. Probably is the way. So we may spend a few, maybe 1 minute, about difference between faith and what I mean when I say not faith in the general sense, in what we are accustomed to think about. Faith in the Christian sense means I believe in something that I don't know anything about. I have faith in God, and I don't have any proof that God exists. I don't even have conviction that God exists. Nor I really care, because I'm interested in having faith, not having understanding, not having proof, not having realization. I don't care. I just have faith, And this is not our faith. This is not what I mean with faith. Faith is something that you develop by knowledge and realization. Then faith comes. We believe that Krishna lifted a hill. It takes faith, because you don't have any proof that actually happened. We haven't seen it. We don't think it's even humanly possible. And even if Krishna is not human, we cannot really not even think how that it could be possible, you know. But we believe that. Why? Because before getting to Krishna's pastimes, we have understood so much philosophy, and we realized some of this philosophy that gave us the strength to believe in something we haven't proved yet. Are we going to have any proof in the future that Krishna may have lifted the Govardhan Hill? Yes, we are going to. Yes, we are going to. But this is a process of understanding and realization. When I approached Krishna consciousness in the beginning, I was in the most Catholic cities in the world, and I was really annoyed by the word faith, because I think it was an insult to my intelligence. Why should I believe, and I should not understand why God gave me intelligence and then it's useless. I cannot use it to understand at least a part. Of course, I cannot understand everything about God. Is infinite and I am finite. So, so when I met Srila Prabhupada, I remember one thing, it would never left me. And now decades are passed. And I still remember Srila Prabhupada said in writing, of course, I read it so many times. Try to understand, try to understand, try to understand. I never heard try to believe, try to believe, try to believe. It's always try to understand, try to understand. Because if Krishna consciousness were just faith, then what's the use of writing so many books? What's the use? For Vyasadeva writing the Mahabharata, a huge encyclopedia of history and philosophy. What's the use of all this? Okay, so if Vyasadeva wrote so many books, if all our great master teachers wrote so many books, and Srila Prabhupada wrote 70 books, means studying, understanding, and practicing, and then realizing all that they have said, it's important. It's important. Otherwise, they will not have. Try to understand, and try to understand. This is what Srila Prabhupada said. All right, so we have come to the conclusion of this explanation of chapter 6 of the Bhagavad-Gita. Now we have, much time for questions. Hopefully today there will be a lot of questions. Something about questions I want to repeat. Questions are not to ask for necessarily for something you don't know or something you think you know. But questions are also for things that you know, for something that you know or you think you know. Because there is always something, how you say, something more to know or something different to know, a new perspective. And there is something about this knowledge that is endless. So the more one is curious, the best is for his spiritual life. Many questions. So I have so many questions. Srila Prabhupada is not here to answer me. So if I, after 47, 48, 47 years, I still have questions, you should have questions. And there is no stupid questions. Sometimes there are stupid answers, but not stupid. But stupid questions do not exist. Okay, so we have Ishvari. I'm not the owner of the Bhoga because everything belongs to Krishna. So how I can offer it? That's a good question. Okay, if you just like a child. When it comes the birthday of a dad or mom, let's say the birthday of dad, he goes to mom and says, I want to give a gift to dad, but I have no money, I'm a child. And mom says, okay, take this money and go buy something for your dad. So he received the gift, and he knows that the money is not his. The money belongs to mom, it belongs to him, ultimately, it belongs to family. But he didn't really care about he cared about the gift. But what he really cared is the gift in itself, is the sentiment, the love that the child put into giving this gift. So you can offer to Krishna what is Krishna's. What Krishna wants is not your food. Krishna wants your love and devotion. By utilizing Krishna's food to express your love and devotion, in this way you advance in spiritual life. Understand? Good question. Bhakti Rosario?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please receive my obeisances and my
Hare Krishna, Hare Bo.
Guru Maharaj, I would like you to help me understand how is it that if Krishna knows the result of everything, like in the case of the Kurukshetra battle, he knew the result before even the battle began. In the same way, he knows everything that's going to happen in this creation. How is it that if everything has been decided, we need to go through this test? I'll call it a test, but I don't know, this process.
Yes.
Instead of going straight to where we have to be.
That's good. Well, okay, so let's try to put this into perspective.
Perspective.
Perspective. In the perspective. So we can understand this point between Krishna knowing everything and free will. What it really changes our life, material or spiritual, is our free will. We freely choose to do this or not to do that. During the battle of Kurukshetra, everyone was free to decide what to do. Okay, if we knew with the Pandavas or the Kauravas doing this and that, and so this free will is what it will cause us our future, or will cause the future. All right. So you, at this point, you may ask, wait a second, but how Krishna knows what I will freely choose? Because he knows what I will freely choose. But he has to let us freely choose. If we change our free will, free choice, he knows that we will change our choice. He knows it, but he has to let us choose it. Because there is no responsibility without freedom. If Krishna has decided what we will do, then why we are responsible? Then karma is not, that doesn't make any sense. What is the sense of the karma if someone else has decided what I did or what I'm doing or what I will do? Karma or reaction of our action, a sense, if I choose, freely choose to do it or not to do it. So free will must always be there, because this is what brought us to this material world. We came here because we freely choose not to love Krishna. But since Krishna wants this love, how can he get this love? He must let us choose if to love him or not. Because if Krishna says, I am all powerful, though love me. So what love is this? I won't like to tell somebody love me or I will hit you. You know, you say, okay, I will love you because I'm afraid of you. This is not love. Love is spontaneous. Love is free. I had to freely choose to love you, and you had to freely choose to love me. This is love. So if we want to go to the spiritual world, Krishna wants us in the spiritual world, but Krishna wants us to go back there freely, by choosing freely to be back to the... He will know. He knows already. Because if we say Krishna doesn't know, because we are free, so how can he know what freely? Well, if he would know, that is not all-knowing. He's not all-powerful. He knows. So again, freedom and independent choice can be philosophically together. They are not, they are not anti. They are not.
They're not different.
No, there is no. The word doesn't come in any other language. I know there is not something that goes against the other. Okay. So this is how it works. Everything done by everybody in the Battle of Kurukshetra outside, etc., has been freely chosen by everybody, and Krishna knew. So why Krishna, if he knew that Bhishma Drona were going to lose and Arjuna and the Pandava were going to win, etc., why did he participate? That's Lila. Lila means this is transcendental pastime. Mahabharata goes on in the spiritual world. There is a Mahabharata in the spiritual world. You have to fill up an eternity. You got to do something there. Otherwise, it's not, getting bored in an eternal world is not really nice, So there is always something new, something. All the Ramayana is there in the spiritual world, and there is Mahabharata, and there is the Puranas, and there is, of course, in different places of the spiritual world, the pastimes that you haven't read, and the Vrindavan Lila book, for instance, that I have published, you must read that. This is the things that go on in the spiritual world. How any devotee can be disinterested in knowing what's happening in the spiritual world. Books like Radha Krishna, Ganodesha Deepika, and hundreds of books that have been written by acharyas that we will try to explain, to publish and explain if we have time. Every devotee should read these books. Okay, so Bhaktin Cassandra.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribo.
So I have two questions, but the first one was inspired from what you were just saying. And so why our devotion? Why is Krishna so pleased with devotion? And maybe I'm looking for a more kind of I don't know what kind of answer I'm looking for, but something that's just a little more kind of logical for me to understand, like what is it about devotion that really captures him? Because that's my question, my first question.
Yeah, I think that sometimes words are used in the context of of Krishna consciousness do not always give an exact idea of the meaning. This is sutra. When we talk about Vedanta Sutra, you know what sutra means? Sutra means a thread, like this, this, the t-shirt, this kurta, is made of thread. Okay, so in a small thread, there is the whole work of somebody who has built, who has constructed, who has done it. So In a word, we had to learn the philosophical concept behind the word. You cannot, otherwise, you cannot every time that you speak give the whole explanation every word, because otherwise you will get crazy. So we say devotion, and what a devotion means, bhakti, devotion. So tell me, why you like so much your husband love? And why you like so much your son love? Why you like so much your father and mother's love, or your friends love, or the devotees love? The devotees also love you. So why you like it so much? What is behind this attraction to love?
It feels, I'm sorry.
Sorry?
Oh no, I said it feels like a natural inclination to just like to just love that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's natural inclination. And where is this natural inclination? It's in the soul. The soul, this natural inclination to love is called ananda, and because it's the tasteful, it's the best thing we can have. There's nothing better, I'm sure. If someone says, okay, you give me your son, you'll never go, you see me again, I will give you $1 million. You said, okay, don't waste my time. Okay, that's right. There is nothing better than love in life. And then there's also nothing better in the spiritual world than prema. Prema is the word for love. There are different kinds of love. Prema is the pinnacle of love in the spiritual world. There is nothing better. It's the most natural, profound, intimate emotion that you find in this world and in the other world. So why we like when we go around, we like people, saying good morning, or how are you? And we like it. Why we like it? Because this is love. Okay? We like this. We don't like somebody looking, oh, you are ugly. Oh, you are so stupid. That's not, that's not weird. We don't like this. Because this is not love. So Krishna, it's not that Krishna wants everybody to do every day like this. Krishna wants our love. And our making obeisances, all the various types of rituals that we did. That's for us. He doesn't enjoy this. He doesn't enjoy our obeisances. He doesn't enjoy our mantras. He doesn't enjoy our offerings. He doesn't enjoy. This is for us, because by doing these things, we get purified. And one day, instead of having Radha Krishna on the altar with all opulences and gold and jewels, etc., we can dress Radha Krishna as coward boy and coward girls, because this is Radha Krishna in Vrindavan. We don't have a single Radha Krishna in Vrindavan deity in ISKCON. Why? Because we are not ready. We will do a lot of offenses. But all our Radha Krishna deities are all in the mode of opulence, all kind of dresses and jewels and mantras, etc., etc. Krishna wants to. There is a little story. I will not tell all the story because it's a long one. But one day Sanatana Goswami arrived in Mathura, and he went to the house of one Brahmana named Chobi. And this Chobi Brahmana Mathura, he had a little deity, a Krishna deity. But this Krishna deity, it was a toy. His son was playing with this toy Krishna deity. When Sanatana Goswami saw that the child was playing and throwing in the floor and making all kinds of things, so that he became horrified. Oh, you cannot do that to a Krishna deity, And the Brahman said, oh, yeah, you are right. Okay, now I will take the deity, put it on the altar, and during that, I started worshiping the deities. And during the night, Krishna appeared in dreams, that deity of Krishna, appeared in dream to Sanatana Goswami, and he said, hey, Sanatana, I was so happy playing with the boy, and now everybody's doing like this. It's so boring. I prefer to play with the kid. So that in any way means that we should take the deities off the altar and throw it in the and give it to our kids to play. No, but just to this is just a lesson that Krishna loves to play in Vrindavan if and when we are pure devotees. We should know that Krishna would like more that. But if we do that now that we are not pure devotees, we are going to make offenses. This is not good. So we had to follow the path of the great acharyas and do step by step what we had to do to get purified and then to pure devotion. So again, devotion should be translated as love. Krishna wants our love. And why Krishna wants our love? Because he likes it, but also he knows that we like it. In other words, Krishna thinks if he loves me, he will be happier, and I will be happier because he's happier. Krishna is also selfless, and he thinks also to our happiness, and our happiness is to love him. Okay, so this I think answers in some way, somehow to your question. Do you have the second one?
Yes, that was perfect, Maharaj. Thank you. And the second one is coming to the understanding, like you were saying, that Krishna is God. And a lot of the evidence comes from the demigods, comes from like Brahma, comes from Indra. And coming from like growing up here in the West, we don't have a lot of, or I guess I'm speaking for myself, like there's not a lot of, like if I'm still trying to come to the understanding that Krishna is God, then I'm still trying to come to the understanding that there's demigods. So I mean, logically it makes sense because it's in the Vedas and in everything, but it's not, it's not, we didn't grow up being around that, understanding that there's demigods and they give, and and their job and their duty is this. And so how do we come to understand Krishna if the evidence is coming, a lot of the evidence is coming from a source that we don't have a lot of what's the word, like faith in as well?
Well, it's like Krishna as demigod, just like the president of the US has ministers, have secretaries, has men in charge of this part of health and economy and this and justice, etc., etc. So the demigods are like Krishna's ministers in this material world. The difference between the president of the United States and Krishna, that Krishna could do everything by himself, and in a way he does, because the power of Indra, Chandra, Surya, etc. comes from him. But it's really not logical that Krishna does everything by himself. It's just not the psychology, the way of thinking of Krishna. Krishna, just try to imagine to have a God who does everything. What we're going to do, what we are going to do. He does everything, he decides it, now is the time. So we are part of Krishna. He wants to give us some work to do. Because it's enjoyable to serve Krishna. But if he does everything by himself, that we cannot serve Krishna. So in this way, the logic of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he has his representatives, various types of representatives, sometimes are his direct, sometimes are his direct expansion, sometimes are his indirect expansion, sometimes it's partial expansion, sometimes are just jivas like us who have been given some particular power, etc., etc. And everything in ultimate analysis comes from Krishna. But we should not really think This effect is a fact. It's true. Everything comes from Krishna. But if we don't understand that we are also part of Krishna and we have our own power since we are part of Krishna, then we fall into the impersonalistic philosophy where everything is one and Krishna is the only, we are part of Krishna and we don't have anything to do in this world, etc., etc. So we, in time, you are going to understand how this works. To conclude, Krishna is devas and avatars, etc., etc., just like the president of any country, as his ministers, representatives, etc., etc. I think Ishwari, and then Andy.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. If I can only offer my devotion, does it depend on a specific object, this is Ishwari, or service? Well, normally the devotional service, you can offer anything to Krishna, you know, and but not anything from the point of view of ideal point of view. You can offer sticks to Krishna because Krishna says in the scripture that I don't eat meat, I only eat vegetables, etc. So your devotion or your activities in devotion has to be guided by knowledge, and knowledge comes from scriptures and gurus. From them, you know what to do and what not to do. Inside the how you say, the word, let's say the space of what illicit, then yes, you can do anything. Yes, you can do anything. But of course, if the spiritual master say you should not do this, and he said, no, I will do it because the this and that is the same, so I will do what I want, this is not good. So ideal is one thing and the practice is different thing. My anger, my violence, if you are a Kurukshetra, yes. If you're not in Kurukshetra, no. There must, for anger or violence, there must be a reason, a valid reason. Otherwise, anger and violence is very detrimental to spiritual life, very detrimental to your mind. Every time we get angry, immediately we feel bitterness in our heart or the adrenaline in our. This is not good for meditation and for devotion. I was born on the day of Shivaratri, probably still has such characteristics, and I offer those two. No, you take your birth as a Pandava in some Krishna pastime, then you can be a Hanuman, that you kill a lot of Rakshasa. Otherwise, you cannot go around shooting people because I am born in Shivaratri, so I have the right of being angry. That's not the thing. Normally, the Brahmanas are peaceful and gentle and so peace-loving people. And the devotee should get angry only when absolutely necessary. If someone comes in our house right now and try to steal or kill us or something, of course we should get angry and react accordingly, but not unless you have some very serious reason. Okay, but Andy?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So my question was just, so you talk about how it's not about controlling the mind, it's about, engaging the senses in a spiritual way. And so how to engage the senses spiritually in the workplace. So, if I'm working, I have to provide, for my family, and I'm working. So how can I change, or is it even possible to change the outlook from being something material to something spiritual?
it depends what you do with the results of what you do. For instance, you are maintaining a family that are a family of devotees. So although your work is obviously not spiritual, but is spiritualized by the results of your work, of your job. Okay, and you work so to maintain your family so that Sunday you can go to the temple. That's spiritualized. Then when you go back, you chant your rounds, you're spiritualizing your work. If you don't work, you cannot do anything of any of this. You cannot maintain your family, you cannot go to the temple, you can't do anything. So, and then you do service, like you are doing service with temple and for our editing and so many things you are doing, and you have your altar, surely you have your altar at your home, etc. So although your activities is not spiritual in itself, the result is spiritual. Just like Arjuna. Do you think that killing people in itself is spiritual? I was not. So how Arjuna's killing of so many people became spiritual? Because Krishna told him to do. So the results of better action spiritualize Arjuna's fighting. Krishna says, fight for me. Doesn't fight for you. For me, Arjuna says, I will go to the forest. So I don't have to kill anybody. I don't need any of this material offer, being a king or being a prince. I don't need any of this. Okay? And Krishna says, yes, your activity is not spiritual in itself, but becomes spiritualized because I tell you to do. So your job can be spiritualized. There is a difference between spiritual, spiritualized, and material. Material is I work, I get the money, and I enjoy it. That's material. Spiritualized is as a material activities that you give it to Krishna. So it's matter spiritualized. Just like the deities on the altar. They are matter. They are made of marble. They are made of copper. They are made of different things. It's a statue. It's a material form. So how do we get purified? By worshiping and serving the deities. Because Krishna accepted to enter into those forms and he spiritualized those material forms. The way Krishna preferred to enter into material form, because otherwise we cannot see him, because we cannot perceive a spiritual form. So he said, okay, then I will enter into material forms, I will transform this matter in spirit, and you'll see me, you get purified, and everybody will serve me will get purified. So we have like food. Food is material, it's not spiritual, but becomes spiritualized the offering on the altar. So your job also can be spiritualized by your life, be a nice devotional life.
So then in that case, do I need to be thinking of like how to bring Krishna into my job? Like, because I teach, and so is it like trying to find different ways to bring Krishna or some kind of spiritual topic? Is that I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm okay.
There are many examples of teachers that change the way of teaching in such a way that Krishna enters into the study course. We have a greatly known example of Srila Jiva Goswami, who wrote a Sanskrit grammar by using Krishna's names. So it's unbelievably ingenious way of teaching Sanskrit. So Sanskrit in itself is not spoken in the spiritual world. Sanskrit is spoken in the superior worlds. So in itself it's not spiritual, but it can be spiritualized if you teach it in a in a spiritual way. Jiva Goswami did that, and we have a lot of examples, like many of the stories in the Puranas, etc., etc., are generally spiritual, but many of the stories are told to explain philosophical principles. So the story may not be spiritual in itself, it may serve a purpose, a final purpose. So you can think in a way that in your teaching Krishna enters, that's your expertise, and it can be done, surely.
Thank you.
All right, so we have, normally this class lasts 1 hour and a half, 7 minutes to 1 hour and a half. We have time for one question more, or maybe two, and then we wrap it up and close it. Yeah, one question more.
Okay, I have one more question then. Where is it that preferences come from? So when you were speaking about the senses and how the mind says, "Oh, I like this, I don't like this," where is it that comes from? So say, I like bananas, and Cassandra doesn't like bananas. So where does that difference come from?
It comes from your personality, which has been formed by lives and lives of experiences. So how does this work? When you live, you develop tastes. I like this, I don't like that, because then all these personal preferences that comes from your being a person. You're Cassandra and your son and me and everybody, we are different people. You may like something, I may like something else. This may come from previous lives also. So your experiences are stored in a corner of your mind. And while at the moment of death, you abandon your physical body, you don't abandon your subtle body. Okay, so all your preferences from the previous lives are still there, not in a very clear form, because at the moment of, Srila Prabhupada explains, the moment of birth, you forget your past lives, but you haven't forgotten everything you experience in your life. In other words, you forget that you have experience, but your experience is still there in a latent form. So you grow up liking a banana, probably, maybe, I can say that it is, but because in your past lives, something happened, you like banana. You don't like cauliflowers because maybe something happened, you dislike cauliflower. So that comes from previous lives. Experience are formative, there's an English, formative, it forms you. Form your nature, form your character, forms your way of thinking, of feeling, and willing. Everything is formed by your sensorial experiences and the way that the mind, molds, let's say, molds them, it works them, okay? I may like something, I may dislike something else. So maybe it's something that I like, there is 1% of there's something I don't like, I try to avoid. So the mind is very tricky, it's very, it's not a simple mechanism, it's not a simple, subtle mechanism. So that's why you like something and you don't like something, because your nature will form life after life about around your sensorial emotions, experiences. Otherwise, there is no reason why one born in a way is someone, why I should be white and European and man and somebody else is African and poor. And why? It's casual. Why somebody takes birth in Vrindavan and the other one takes birth in North Pole, you know, and never will hear Krishna? Is Krishna unfair? Why somebody born as healthy and somebody else that takes birth and being unhealthy and unlucky, everything is wrong in his life? Is Krishna unfair? No, to stop thinking that way of giving God the guilt or something that we are the cause. We are the cause of our personalities, our liking, our dislikings. And so what we are is a result of what we have built past lives. So now, be careful to use your free will. You're using it wonderfully. You know, you are a Vaishnava, there's no better way. But be careful not to make mistakes, you know, because it is possible. We see sometimes what begins well and the ends bad. So be careful not to waste your human form of life.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can suspend here and give you appointment for the next Thursday at 7 o'clock Texas time. And thank you very much for everybody. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you.